Let's do 10-minute rapid. I feel like I was kind of in the zone the last time I played, like my 10-minute rapid games. And we have a 1770, but I'm not necessarily worried. $1,800 rapid push. Oh yeah, it's updated. Yeah, I'm not too worried. Let's put a little pressure on time though. Just to keep things going. Okay, he can't push either, so kind of look to do what I normally do, and that's just that. If he plays bishop G, yeah, I immediately have to move my queen because then he'll have that move. Right, and why in the world do I keep forgetting? Okay, I have a check at least though, so I can play this check first. And I don't think that works because if I play here, that immediately kicks the bishop and he can no longer protect this knight. So let's, oh no, if I play here, can he take my knight first? Because then oh no, if we ever end up trading all the pieces, his knight is going to be left hanging. Let's make sure I calculated that right. Yes, that's correct. So yeah, even if he tries to take there first, I'm going to take back right there. And then they'd obviously, no, then they could come back. No. Then they would have to deal with this threat right here. So either way, I'm winning a minor piece. And then it's just up to me to... Okay, now was that a good move though? Because he obviously has to play there to protect. And now can I just develop my bishop to this square, attacking this, and then forking his pieces, and then he'd have to push like right there, which almost weakens that pawn. Not quite. Then I just jump in with the knight though, right? Yeah, because if I jump in with the knight, I fork both these pieces. He has force to like move his bishop back there or something. And I just put extra pressure on this pawn. That's my idea at least. So I'm definitely winning. I just need to make sure I don't blow it, because the knight definitely has some interesting squares to jump into. Yeah, I mean, I saw that move, and then I also saw that I could play this move, which now this pawn, there's no way to protect this. There's not enough pieces you can protect with, and I'm threatening to attack this bishop and just to kind of take that in general. I suppose he could push this pawn again, but I'm not sure what that would do necessarily though. This piece is only being protected twice. So I could take this bishop, or I could I might take the pawn and attack the queen. Takes. If I take the pawn, that might be bait though. I'm not going to take the pawn, because that pawn, I could get my pieces trapped, and that would be the worst. That would be the absolute worst. Let's just kick this knight. Let's get this knight up out of there. Yep, I mean, I saw that he had a possible square it could go to, but now I'm looking to simply pin the knight to the queen. And as long as the knight has no checks, I'm in good condition. Now I'm going to pin this knight to the queen. Wow, this is kind of actually really fascinating. I've never seen a move like this before where I pin both the knights to the queen. This knight and this knight are both being pinned to the queen by these pieces right here. Okay, well he relieves that pin. But like all I need to do is this take. Okay, all I need to do is double up my rooks and I should be okay. Yeah, let's just double up my rooks and I should be okay. Again, he has no checks. I think I should. I'm honestly looking to immediately play this move, kicking the knight. And once he moves, I double up my rooks, and there's nothing he can do about it to protect. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, because he can't get to this square. He can't get to this square. He cannot get to any of these squares, obviously. And he can't get to this square, so I don't think there'd be any way to defend that piece. And I just would be winning by a large margin. My bishop protects that square, which is weak. The knight can't infiltrate. Because I'm blocking a lot of key squares here. So I think this is the best move, to immediately kick the knight. Then look to slide my rook over and win a second minor piece. And yes, okay, so I saw that, yes, he can do that move. I don't think that move does anything because once I take, he takes. Oh, takes. I slide over, he takes. Nope. Still not fast enough, and the more pieces I trade off, the better because I'm already winning. So let's just look to play here. And the queen is in such a terrible position because even if you slide the rook over so that you'll have two pieces protecting this piece, I'll take with the rook, and you do not want to take with the queen because I'll take with the rook, and you might take back, but now I win the exchange because I'm winning a piece worth 9 points, which is the queen. So I'm just crushing in this position. And also, if we trade off all these pieces and, hypothetically, I end up getting that queen. Your opponent is weak here. I'm looking to infiltrate. It's just not a lot going for you right now. Okay, I see he plays that move, which is actually a pretty, almost a really good move. Because I can still take your queen, you take my queen, and the only difference with this is it might look like, hey, you both take the queens and you want a pawn, but my knight guards my queen. Your queen is just left hanging because you weren't able to shift your pieces over fast enough. Or I could just take his knight and there's nothing he can do. He cannot take back. But I will be looking to trade more pieces off the board because ideally, the more pieces I trade off, the better for me. So let's just get these trades going. Now you have to take my queen. There's nothing you can do about it, or you'll be dead loss because I'd be up a queen for whatever you want. And let's just keep my rook on, like, taking control of this file right here. Obviously, you might look to threaten my bishop at some point. That's what I would look to do because you really have no other moves. My opponent has like no other moves but to threaten my bishop at this point and then infiltrate on this rank. My goal is probably to slide this back. He'll probably want to move his rook to the second rank because rooks thrive on the second rank, and which then I will look to trade off his final rook and keep these pawns and then go on the seventh rank for his pieces. And then, yeah, there's not much he can do. So he's probably looking to definitely go there. And honestly, I'm debating on whether I should immediately play here, just because I don't even want to give him like the squares to infiltrate on the second rank, and then even he can't provide a check, and I still have control of this entire file while threatening to trade off his, one of his final pieces, which is that last rook that he has. But yeah, it's honestly just not looking great for him right now. And after this game, I'm going to look to break down my opening and what my opponent did. Okay, nice. They left the game. I didn't even have to. They didn't even let me prove to win. If you're a lower rated player, I would definitely recommend that you play this game out, even at my rating of 1748. There's definitely a lot of ways I could have thrown this game with 2 rooks. I mean, I have 2 minor pieces. It would be very hard for me to lose, and I have the confidence that I don't think I would lose. But with 2 rooks, the game just gets a little tricky, especially since he has this pawn ledged on the light squares. It would be really hard for me to maneuver and get over there to grab this pawn. So he's blocking all these squares, and with 2 rooks on the back rank, you never know what could happen. Also, he has these pawns doubled, and he has a pawn chain going on right here, so no piece can infiltrate right here. I mean, obviously my rook would look to grab it on one of these squares, but it would just you just kind of had enough pawns over here to start trying to cause damage. My knight is on the edge of the board, it's not really doing anything, and my bishop is kind of staring at 2 brick walls. All my pawns are on green squares, so it's kind of just stuck, and it's kind of trapped this way, and it doesn't have a lot of mobility. My strongest asset are my 2 rooks, which is taking control of the D file, which definitely looks really menacing, and is honestly the main reason that my opponent probably resigned. But nonetheless, I probably still would have played the game out just to see if we could possibly get a draw or something, because I'm also down on time. As you can see, my opponent is up over a minute of the clock. I was doing a lot of explanations. I was doing a lot of explaining. So yeah, my opponent is up on time, and they're also up on the elo ladder, and a lot of people, I feel like, don't talk about it as much, but being a higher elo has its perks, because it could possibly intimidate your opponent, or it could be used to get into the minds of your opponent, because chess is very psychological. So if I'm playing someone that's higher rated elo, I might play a little bit differently than my strong suit, because I'm trying to overcompensate for a skill I feel like I don't have yet. Or I could get in my head and overthink it and go the opposite end of the ladder and say, hey, just because they're higher overall, it doesn't matter to me. And I start to overlook certain tactics that I should have spent a little bit more time on, because I'm trying to calm my heart rate. I'm trying to calm myself down and say, hey, he's just a regular person, which kind of takes me out of my game, and maybe I should have played more aggressive. But let's break down my game, and specifically let's kind of start to break down the English opening. So yep, I'm actually very proud of this game. I played a near flawless game. Let me see if I can pull up part of the window. Here we go. I played a 2350 rated game right here. As you can see, my opening was a 92.1% accuracy, and my middle game was a 92.6% accuracy. And you can't see at the top here, but it gives my overall game rating a 92.5% accuracy. And if you break down my game stat sheets, I had 0 brilliance. You can't quite see, but I had 1 great move, 6 book moves, which means I know my opening very well. Now you can see that I had 10 best moves, 4 excellent moves, 3 good moves, and I had 0 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, and 0 blunders, with only 1 miss, meaning that, hey, at some point in this threshold, I had an opportunity to win. I had an opportunity to pull off a move that was a lot. A nice tactic that would have given me a bigger advantage, but nonetheless, I still think ended up finding that move right after. So I was a move too late, but still nearly a flawless game. I'm not too mad at this game at all. So yeah, let's start with what I played. I played an opening that's called the English opening, which is the pawn being pushed up at c4. Let's hide this. So yeah, immediately once you push this pawn up 2 spaces, the c pawn, it's the English opening, which is a flank pawn, controlling the key square d5. You definitely look to follow this move up with knight to b3, continuing to put pressure on that d5 square. Some people will play e4 immediately. I'm not too sure on the lines there, but sometimes I also like to play g3 and then fianchettoing my bishop right there. I'm not going to, during this tutorial, I'm not going to go too in depth in the English line. So if you want more details on how to play it, maybe to the each best move down to the computer, I would definitely recommend you looking that up, or I'll dive deeper in on that at some point and learn myself, because I still have a lot that I need to learn about the English. Really, what I want to do is kind of just teach you how I play the English, and kind of how I look at the board and how I view certain things. And I can't be doing something too wrong. I got a 92.5 rated five. I got a 92.5 accuracy for my game, and I also got a 2300 rated game by chess.com. So I can't be doing something too wrong, but still I would definitely recommend you checking out the lines yourself in the database, or commenting, and I will make a video on that myself. But yeah, I will look to fianchetto with the bishop immediately right there. Sometimes I'll actually look to transpose and play d4 with the pawn, which if they play d5 anyway, that would transpose into the queen's gambit. Fun fact, I actually used to play the queen's gambit before I played the English, and I used to love the lines where they would take. I'd push up in the center, looking to attack this pawn. They would look to protect it. I'd look to undermine it. They'd look to protect again, and then I would take, and I forget the exact variation, but I love that variation because I'm always looking to eye down that rook, or just play some moves where I could even sacrifice my bishop to look for their rook in that corner. It was just really fun. I got a lot of people at the lower rating ladder, but I had a great time playing that. Continue on with the game. They play a book move, e5. I responded to the flank opening, and my opponent attacks the sender. This is called the reverse Sicilian, and this is called the reverse Sicilian because the Sicilian is played when someone plays e4 as their opening with white, and they respond with c5, playing down that c file. And as you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory on why it's the reverse Sicilians, because I actually started with the flank pawn, and then they moved in with the center pawn, the e pawn, which is the one in front of the king. Yeah, I play my book move, developing my knight to the center, which is c3. They play knight of 6, develop the knight, and they control the d5 square as well, just so I don't get a little bit too much pressure. And they also kind of control this e4 square right here with their knight. So both our knights are battling for this square. The only difference is my pawn is now battling for this square, and their pawn is kind of battling for these squares right here. So not as much pressure going on. Yep, this move opens up a path for my bishop. I look to play g3 and then develop my bishop, fianchetto it. They play knight c6, develop my knight towards the center. So now they're putting a little bit of pressure on, they're protecting this pawn, obviously, and then putting more pressure on this square. So they have a lot of pressure going on this e5 square, and I have a lot of pressure going on this d5 square. We're both forbidding immediate pawn pushes, but let's see if I calculate one. Yep, we're both preventing immediate pawn pushes right here, and really delaying the activity of our d pawns. So I continue with what my initial idea was to fianchetto the bishop, which again puts more pressure on the d5 square. You could just see how we're just building up, but I also kind of have more pressure on this e4 square, preventing the pawn advancement. They developed the bishop to be bishop to c5, which again, just putting a lot more pressure on that square right there. We kind of know our targets. And then I play knight to f3, which is now actually putting pressure on that square and putting pressure on this pawn. So I'm finally starting to attack the weaker points in their position, or put pressure on the weaker points in their position, which is this e5 square, which is only being protected by their knight. And I'm starting to put pressure right here, which they've been putting pressure on the entire game. Just have more pieces controlling the center, develop my knights to a natural square, and I have this bishop that's fianchettoed, which is now tucked nicely behind this knight, and I'm preparing to castle on my next move. Yep, they play a book move, which is d6. We both me and my opponent know our openings very well, and they are looking to obviously free up space to develop their bishop. That I'm not sure where they would put their bishop. They have a lot of different squares they could put their bishop. Probably not here. Maybe here, looking to attack this pawn right here. Maybe here, looking to attack that pawn right there. Maybe here, looking to just kind of put some pressure on this diagonal. Even though my pawn isn't here anymore and it's not weak, I definitely look to develop my queen to c2 during the game at some point. Maybe here eventually, which wouldn't do too much because I could look to kick their bishop, but maybe they want me to kick the bishop. Maybe they slide back here, they keep the pressure, and they just want me to kick. But in some lines, I can actually push my g-pawn and kind of have a setup like that. So you got to watch out. But maybe my opponent wants me to overextend. You never know. It depends on what their ideas are. All I know is that they now have all of these options after playing d6 with the pawn. I castle. Very expected. English opening. So yep, as you can see, or you can't see right here. Let's see if I can slide this over really quickly. Yeah, I've played the English opening 1,100 times as white, and I have a 57% win rating. So I win more games than I lose with the English opening, which is good. Good. Castle, pretty self-explanatory on why you want to castle. But if you don't know why you want to castle, it's to protect your king. Get it out the center. If your king is in the center, equals bad. It's just bad. Alright. One of their best moves is h6, is what the computer is saying. It definitely stops this move right here, so they can probably look to push the pawn afterwards, because if they pushed the pawn earlier, I would look to just move my knight to that square, and then I'd be winning a pawn because I attack it 3 times with my knight, my bishop, and my other knight, and they only defend it once, so there's no way to protect it fast enough, because if you push this pawn to defend it, I just take the pawn. You'd either have to take with the knight or the queen. You'd probably take with the queen so that your knight could still protect the pawn, or I take the pawn immediately. But if we take with the queen, I still take the pawn immediately, and I take it with this knight right here on g5. So once I take it with this knight, I have grounds for a discovered attack, because your queen is on this square. My bishop would be eyeing it down, but the knight would be protecting it. So any piece that I take or anywhere I move my knight would open up the line for my bishop to discover attack you. I play e3. E3 is very simple. The next move I want to play is, and let's actually remove the showing what the top move is, because it's still an excellent move, and maybe I would have gotten like 0.1% better if I played that. Nothing too crazy. Auto show, no, that didn't do it. Neither. There we go. Yep. That's I have a simple idea with playing e3, and that is to push my pawn to d4 to look to break up their center. Why I couldn't play d4 before is because if you look at the position here, if I play d4, they have had d4 protected from early on in the game by 1, 2, 3 pieces. If I play d4 immediately, I would only be protecting it with 1, 2 pieces, which is my knight and my queen. So after the exchange, I would be down a piece. I would be down either a pawn, but worst case scenario, I'm like, hey, I push my pawn, I lose my pawn, and I have to move my knight. But I say I don't want to lose my pawn. I take with the knight, they take with the bishop, and now I'm down a minor piece, and now I'm just losing. I mean, I'd be losing if I played the move anyway, but now I'm just losing. This pawn gives me a third attacker. So now when I push d4, I'll have 1, 2, 3, and we'll have an even exchange, and my queen would just sit on this square afterwards, and these pieces all will be gone. All right, and they play g4, bishop to g4. Very, very, very simple idea. They rule this a mistake because I can immediately kick the bishop, which is kind of the lines I was pointing out earlier, where I could have this and possibly this to chase that bishop out. Sometimes though, I'm sorry. Sometimes though, if I play this and this too soon, or in the wrong scenario, or don't attack fast enough, I will be put in a situation where my pawns are now overextended and there's not much I can do, which is why I'm scared to play this and this now. I used to play it a lot more often. I used to be scared at first. Then when I found that you could do it, I used to play it too much. And now I'm scared again, because the last time I played it over the board, I played it against a guy and he 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 um he got my pawns because they were overextended, and I was a little like, man, that kind of sucks. And he was pointing out to me that I might have overextended, although I might have been okay, but I ended up blundering a different piece. I still was on the fence about playing that move the next time I played it, which is why I was like, simply let me just move my queen out of the way of the pin, because the believe it or not, the knight is now pinned. Because if he moves the pawn forward, I can't move the knight out of the way. Because he would just take my queen. Even though it's being protected, since the pawn is only worth 1 point, you can sack the pawn, take the knight, and you would just be winning. What I failed to calculate is that after I played this move, which is the move that they deem a miss, he has, yep, knight to b4, which apparently isn't even the best move. My best move was to play, let's see, to kick the bishop, and I wouldn't need to move my queen, apparently. So they wanted me to play this move. That's the best move. Let's see what they deem that as. That is an inaccuracy. Would this be my best move afterwards? So yeah, apparently in this line, this was the line to move, which was to move this piece and this pawn up. I wasn't quite comfortable playing that. It would have given me a clear advantage. The move that I ended up playing, I ended up losing my advantage by an entire point, which you saw, because they do have that follow-up move, which apparently, again, wasn't even the best move, but nonetheless was played. I play this check. My idea was to either have the knight jump back, and then I play this pawn advancement, maybe looking to play this pawn advancement, but then I would just slide my queen back to the square it wants to be, which is on c2. That was just my idea. I like having my queen on this diagonal, which yeah, it's just, and it helps me connect my rooks sooner, and then eventually I would look to play like d4, breaking open the center, because he hasn't castled either. Like, those are just my ideas in the English. Maybe fianchetto this bishop, maybe keep it here. Or I guess it isn't fianchetto anymore, but get this bishop on this diagonal, connect my 2 rooks down here. Like, those were all my ideas that I'm looking at to play in this English line that I know are present. But after the check, they played pawn protects, which I immediately was like, yeah, that's wrong. And I'm glad I was able to identify this, because at this point we're just deep in the middle game, and these are just tactics and just basic calculations. So this knight is being with this pawn being pushed here. Not only is your knight being only being protected by the bishop, which I already was setting up moves to, kick that bishop, and they're already set up fully. You've gotten rid of one of your squares that your knights can jump to. So your knight can only jump to this square now. It can jump to this square eventually, but again, once I kick your pieces, you won't have enough time. So yeah, let's actually not focus on where the knight can jump. Let's just focus on how the knight is being protected. The knight is only being protected by one piece, and that one piece is the bishop, and this bishop is very claustrophobic. The bishop can only protect the knight on this diagonal, and does it have access to this diagonal? No, because it's blocked in by a pawn. And all game, my entire game plan leading up to now was taking control of the center, and then I shifted it to taking control of d5. So I now have all the preparations to play or take control of d4, and I now have all the preparations to play d4, which is the same square that the bishop occupies, which is the only square on the diagonal. Which is the only square on the diagonal that the bishop occupies that can continue to protect this knight. So after all of our exchanges, I basically would be winning a I'd be winning a knight, because once I play this move, which was the great move, it doesn't matter what you do. You could take here, I'd take here, and then it doesn't matter what you do afterwards. You could take with the pawn, I'll take back with the pawn, and even afterwards you could take this pawn. I'm still winning a knight in the end. And yeah, that's just kind of the cold truth. There's nothing you could do. You can play any other line. You can play it in any other way. Take here first. I take here. Now you can't even take, or you just lose the bishop. but slide back, I won a knight. There's no order that you can play these moves where you don't end up losing a knight. I just have too much of an attack going on your bishop and on this square that I can sack this pawn to win the knight however I want to. Even if you remove the defender, I can still sack the pawn to win the knight. And it's not even sacrificing, it's just, the pawns are worth less points, so there's nothing they can do about it. I take. They castle. Okay, so they deem that the best move. His king hasn't castled. We've opened up the center. I could probably play an in-between move to check. Put him in an even worse situation because there's no. It would just be very difficult for him to play these moves afterwards. So he castles, decides that, I'm going to lose my bishop. And that's okay. I take the bishop, free bishop. And I found the best move, which was to connect my rooks and threaten this weak pawn, which would then fork their knight and their rook. Again, these are just kind of middle game tactics now. We're not diving too much into the English, but now we're just breaking down my game, which this move just serves two push purposes: develops my bishop, connects both my rooks, and I guess three purposes. Develops my bishop being one of the purposes, connecting my rooks, and then attacking a piece. And then it's attacking attacking a piece, which will lead to a tactical fork as well. So, just a lot of good things going on. I'm just making very good moves. They obviously played a pawn push to protect that pawn, which I then found another pretty good move, which was knight to e5. Knight to e5. This bishop is kind of dumb and useless right now because it was moved here to pin my knight, but after all that's happened on the board, it was just attacking a knight that was already being protected. And once I move it, this bishop, it just isn't really doing anything. It's not like controlling any key squares. I mean, I guess it kind of puts pressure on this one, but I like my knight eyes that, my queen eyes it, and my rook all eye that square, both my rooks. So it doesn't really do anything. I can kick it anytime I want to. My bishop is also here on these diagonals, so there's no way you can infiltrate here. Like his bishop is just kind of useless, and it comes to bite him because this move serves as a couple purposes too, because it opens up the diagonal for my bishop to attack this pawn. I'm now attacking this pawn, and my queen is already eyeing down this pawn. This pawn, after you move this pawn up to protect that pawn, it lost its protector. So now only the knight is protecting it, and he moved the rook over in his next move, but that's only two defenders, so I feel like I could have taken a pawn. Let's see if I could have taken a pawn. I could have taken a pawn. Is that what I did? I forgot what I did in the game. No, I think I took the bishop. But I just didn't I didn't want to lose this bishop. I felt like he could have had something on this diagonal. So yeah, they don't really like how I take with that bishop. Obviously, I can't take with the queen. And I didn't want to take with the knight because I felt like he might have had something with like the queen and just kind of playing on this diagonal. And now he has three attackers. I only have a couple of defenders. And yeah, I just wasn't too comfortable with playing that move. So I said, hey, I'm already up a piece, a minor piece, 2 points. I just took the bishop. They deemed that the best move, being a fair trade. Yeah, but I was just comfortable with taking the bishop. I said, let me not to get too greedy, trying to grab all these pawns and getting hit with tactics that I couldn't fully calculate, and I wasn't comfortable being in. And I said, I'm not playing too slow. I know I'm already winning. Let's just grab that bishop, which was the best move. We trade more pieces off the board. I kicked the knight. Again, I'm finding the best move. I just didn't like the knight being in my position right there, and I was also looking to rotate my queen, and it was taking up key squares that I didn't want it to be on. Apparently, his best move was with the knight there. Oh, I mean, I guess that's the only move he can move the knight to without losing the knight. But I now can pin the knight to the queen. Pinning serving is that he can't move the knight because there's a more valuable piece behind it, and the knights are also known to fork the king. So if the knight was on like this square right here, it could jump here or here, and it could check the king and move out the way without losing the queen, because I'd have to move the king first before I could take the queen. But unfortunately, the knight is not on any of those squares, and now it's kind of just a liability in the middle of the board, and it's being pinned. Queen slides up, obviously looking to reinforce the knight by playing another rook, because my next move is going to be to play like queen c2, which I already wanted to play, or playing, I don't know, bishop e4, just so that I could attack the knight again, because I'm winning the knight on the next turn, because you can't reinforce it fast enough. I play this move, which I found very fascinating, pinning 2 pieces to the queen. So this queen is almost like the strongest piece on the board, but now it's his biggest liability, because both these knights can't move because of the queen. So he then plays this move, which protects the knight, because protects the knight, but it also puts a shield up between the bishop and the queen. So if he moves the knight, it'd be eyeing down his pawn, which is now protected by a couple of defenders. So I push my rook up once with a clear-cut idea, which is to slide my other rook over and to grab this knight. I calculated that I don't think there's a way that you can defend fast enough, because I slide my rook over, you slide any one of your rooks over, I take your knight. Let's say I play here, you slide one of your rooks over, I slide my rook over. It doesn't matter, because I'll take the knight anyway. Oh, I just slid my rook over. Let's say he doesn't, because I'm gonna touch on that other move, that knight move later. Let's say he plays right here. Doesn't matter, because I take your knight anyway. This would suck for you, because if you take, I'm taking, and now I'm just up a queen. And I have all these minor pieces. You have 2 rooks, but again, I have a queen. You don't. I basically win. But in this move, he played knight to e5, or knight to e5, which is, it makes sense, but I played the best move, which is kicking their knight. I calculated that, hey, I should just kick your knight, because once you move your knight, we'll be back into the same predicament we were last time, where I'm pinning the knight to the queen, and then I take. He plays there. I played the best move. Trade off more pieces when you're winning. I was already winning. I said, let's trade. There's nothing you could do about it, because you have to take back. The more pieces I win, the more I'll be up. So you have to take back. You can't just let me get away with taking that knight. Now I play my idea initially again. So they decided to do what's called desperado. When the piece is going to be taken regardless, they said, hey, I'm not going down without a fight, so let me take that knight. Let me take a pawn while I'm at it. But I had a few different things I could play. I could have just taken with the rook, and they actually deemed that the best move, and I just would have been up a knight for a pawn. But again, I'm winning, so I said, you know what I want to do? What's better than just being up a knight for a pawn, being up a knight for a pawn, and taking both our queens off the board, so that you have less counterplay. So I went for, and they deemed that the best move as well. This isn't the highest rated engine. It's still a high rated engine, Stockfish, but I guess it's still calculating kind of fast. So let's see if it's just calculating kind of fast. I play this move. They deem as a really good move. Let's just say that it's a good move. Cause you take my queen. We both have our queens off the board, but now I win the knight back. My opponent slid the rook over, which again during the game I was predicting that the only counterplay they have is to literally look to attack my bishop. I just control this file so strong. I slid my bishop back, and I was like, the next move that they have is maybe playing like e2, which they consider the best move. Activates the rook. They put it on the 7th rank. Again, I saw all of this during the game. I said that's literally the only move that I would play. And at first, I played with the notion of just immediately trading off rooks, which they deem a good move. But then I said, hey, what's better? I think I should honestly play here first. Kind of looking to dislodge the rook from the 7th rank. I don't even want to give them enough counterplay. I control all of these squares. You don't want to trade, so you'd have to kind of, you have to take a step back, which I liked. And yeah, that's the game. We went over the English opening. We went over kind of some middle game mastery. What we didn't go over is the end game, because it didn't go to an end game. This would be a pretty clear-cut end game, though. I'd be winning, and winning by a pretty large margin. But had a lot of fun. I played a higher rated opponent as well, 1770, and I brought my elo up to 1748 with that game. But yeah, definitely look to add the English into your repertoire. It's a very good game, very good game. I think a lot of people will have trouble playing against it too, because it's kind of unconventional, pushing that flank pawn. And then again, early on, it could transpose into a d4 opening, which you just supporting it with c4 into like a queen's gambit. So, you know, maybe someone is prepared to play the English and then you transpose back into the queen's gambit, or just a simple d4 opening, and now you're back to kind of a stable controller center. You've got center pawns, you got your d pawn, and you got your c pawn. You push your e pawn maybe once, you kind of have that bishop on the diagonal looking to win it again. You know, it's just a lot of options, a lot of ideas for the English, and I am a fan. I'm a fan of how aggressive the English is, but also how yeah, I'm just a fan of all how aggressive and all the creative possibilities that can stem from the English, and the unconventional play style that comes from it. But yeah, that is all for this video, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day.